Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session, Social Media Strategies for Economic Development Marketing. My name is Trevor Lewington, and as a member of the EDA board, it's my privilege to welcome you to this session and to thank you for being a part of Experience 2020, our annual conference gone virtual. Social media, as you know, has dramatically changed the way economic developers market their location, and today's session will hopefully generate some questions, but also gives you some tools about how to move forward. It's my privilege now to introduce you to Clint Neufeld, a policy analyst with AUMA, to talk a little bit more about their organization and also introduce our speaker today. AUMA, or the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association, is a key partner of ours. They help us with a number of initiatives and make sure us as economic developers are truly connected to our elected officials and some of our key stakeholders in urban municipalities. So with that, let me thank you again for your participation, thank AUMA for their sponsorship, and hand it over to Clint.
Hello, my name is Clint Neufeld, and I'm pleased to introduce today's session on behalf of the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association. At AUMA, we represent urban municipalities, including cities, towns, villages, summer villages, and specialized municipalities, where over 85% of Albertans live. Our business services provide outstanding value through aggregation. Combined with competitive prices and tailored customer service, we take pride in creating value for members and not for corporate shareholders. Today's topic, social media strategies for economic development marketing, aligns with our commitment to provide exceptional service to our members in a changing world, and I'm very happy to introduce this session and the presenter on behalf of AUMA. Dr. Alyssa Sklar is a recognized expert in economic development, communication, marketing, and social media. As the Vice President of Marketing for GIS Planning, she works directly with clients to develop and fine-tune marketing campaigns to promote their use of online GIS data tools. Using a customized collaborative approach, Dr. Sklar works to expand the reach of location brands in the highly competitive field of economic development. With a PhD and MA in Communication and Cultural Studies from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, Dr. Sklar has worked extensively in both private and academic sectors, serving as a social media consultant for economic development agencies, full-time faculty member at Concordia University's Department of Communication Studies, research faculty at McGill University, blogger, and multiple award-winning journalist.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this workshop. My name is Alyssa Sklar. I'm the VP of Marketing at GIS Planning, and we are going to be looking at 5 social media strategies for place marketing. I'm going to try and keep this very practical and really focus on things that you can begin doing right away to ensure that you're getting the most of your social media marketing. Maybe this is something that's new for you, maybe you've already been using it, but you want to do things a little bit differently. Just a couple words about GIS planning and what it is that we do. We're the makers of the industry's leading online GIS data tools for investment attraction. You probably have heard of Zoom Prospector. We've been doing this for more than 22 years, consistently innovating in how we help communities profile the sites and buildings in their area, but also the data points, all the community data. It's really an open access community data portal. We also make other GIS data tools called intelligence components, which are standalone interactive tools that are mobile friendly and go on your website, and a product called Zoom Business, which allows communities, especially during the COVID pandemic, to feature a map directory of all the businesses in their community to help connect them with area residents. And so I'll use some of these as examples, but basically what I'm going to focus on here really is the social media aspect, because part of what we do is work individually with all of our clients to help them use the tools as successfully as possible to market their location, to support area businesses, create jobs, attract workforce, and basically just strengthen their regional economies. So what I'd like to get started here is just kind of giving you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to be generally discussing communication in an unfolding crisis. I'll talk about B2G and G2B. We'll talk about connecting businesses to businesses and 5 social media strategies that you can put into place and some other practical takeaways along the way. Effective communication for economic development clearly during a pandemic is more effective than ever. I mean, it's hard to see people face to face, whether it's people unable to travel because of the restrictions, or even just people within the community because of physical distancing issues. You can't get people together in a room, you can't do workshops in the same way, this conference being one great example. So we're looking for lots of really creative ways to do that in a digital space. And it's also really critical during the crisis of a pandemic ongoing for many months now to be able to efficiently and effectively direct information from area governments and funnel them into ways that businesses and people who are maybe going to be following an economic development organization be able to find them in an easy way and help them understand that. The other things that we've seen economic development organizations doing are mapping businesses that are open or closed, or using, shifting maybe to takeout and delivery, maybe new retailers that have opened websites to showcase their products since people can't always easily come into the stores anymore, offering contactless payment, gift card stimulus programs, all the creative ways that that businesses are now working harder than ever to reach their client base within any region. We're also seeing economic developers helpfully aggregate resources from different levels of government. It can be very confusing for, small, medium-sized businesses don't have a ton of time and they have to make sense of what's happening from the federal government or the provincial government, what's happening locally or municipally. So being a kind of information aggregator is very useful to them. We're also seeing workforce or talent consulting economic development organizations more and more, just looking for information that they can use to help them understand if people are still moving around, they're looking for jobs, they're moving from region to region. How can we showcase those things and offer that information in a compelling way? At the very beginning of the pandemic, we did see a lot of business surveys going out. That has slowed down a lot. I still think it's worthwhile at least quarterly to do a survey of area businesses just to get a sense of what is important to them, what has been working, what hasn't been working, what could municipalities or regions do in order to make their lives easier and help direct people their way and help them with other ways that they're trying to manage cash flow, retain employees, support employees, lots of things for them to go on. I have seen some very creative gift card programs. I'm going to provide this the link to the slide deck with you so you can follow through on that link. This is one from, I'm a Montrealer, and this is a local one here in Montreal, in which the municipalities offered a gift card stimulus program where consumers could spend, let's say, $20 to buy product from a local business. You get a gift card, and the municipality added in another $10. So the consumer essentially had $30 to spend, and it was just a great way to generate and direct more businesses to the retailers, restaurants, caterers, all the folks that are in the community to get people, and it gives them cash in hand right away. And of course, we know with gift cards, often they're not actually ever used, but it is very important for cash flow. Creative idea, and you'll be welcome to check that out afterwards. So G2B, or government to business communication, is kind of a wrinkle on what we usually think of as B2B, business to business communication. We're not in a B2C context, which is business to consumers. If you're not, say, you're, selling soft drinks or makeup or cars to consumers, but we're not just selling to businesses either. This is really about government trying to market services and information to businesses that need it. And it's really about offering this in an authoritative, credible voice, about putting faces on places, about informing, educating, engaging, descriptive text or key data, maps, images, visuals of any kind, video, interactive tools, especially when they're more mobile friendly, is a great way to make the most of this G2B context. And one of the things that G2B communication can really do is reducing the burdens of accessing information in a timely and efficient way. People struggle to find the information that they need, and it often feels very difficult to understand, difficult to find, difficult to access. So we really just want to make sure that we're doing our best to help them find those things. And then finally, being a B2B matchmaker, helping to connect the businesses in your region for synergies. We've heard a lot about nearshoring, supply chain redirections when things are hard to get from far away, helping businesses locally and regionally benefit each other, but also maybe working together in creative new ways, co-marketing initiatives, lots of things that can be done to support each other and making the most of them. And really, as an economic developer, you are uniquely poised to be able to be that matchmaker. So these are some interesting ways that you can be kind of putting a spin, or as you seek content and objectives for your social media posts, those are things to think about. So the things I'm going to talk about is knowing your tools, focusing on the specific objectives, and understanding how to use your time wisely, because we know social media can take a lot of time. We want to limit that. Building engagement, establishing a list of content resources. Where do you get your posts from? We know that's a common issue and pain point. And then using hashtags strategically. I'm going to start with knowing your tools, because I think that's really critical. Just because you're talking about social media, it does not by any means need that you need to do all of the social media. We want to be able to understand the differences between them and to pick wisely in order to achieve your objectives. I'm going to show you some examples of social posts from different economic development organizations from different sources so that you can get a sense of what people are doing and how that works a bit differently. So this is an example from Facebook. This is the Detroit Regional Partnership, very, very active online. And they post properties of the week. And they grabbed this one from the their Zoom Prospector portal. The link, you'll notice, is front and center to take people back there. And this is something I'm going to say over and over again. Put links in your social posts. You want to be sure that people have somewhere to go with this information or to learn more. So in this case, their objective is to get more eyes on this featured property. They are taking an image from the Zoom Prospector tool. In fact, we offer 360 virtual tours using Google Earth technology for all of the products. So in some of their posts, I'm not showing you that here, but they actually just did a video capture of that 360-degree flyover and included that in the post. And then they're sending people directly there. So that works very well actually on all of the posts, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. This is another example. This is from the city of Abbotsford in British Columbia. They are using our Zoom business mapping directory, support area businesses, and they produced this very slick, creative, it's very clear. This is something that went on Facebook that they put with a link in order to send people to this tool. Now, Facebook is a good place to do this. This is where consumers are as well as businesses. So it is just a great place to be able to direct people to go there if you're looking to get delivery or get information about businesses that are open. So another property of the month or example, similar to Detroit, this is from Business Oregon. Now, they didn't include a picture, so that's something I would change here. But you'll see that this is also from Facebook. And there is, again, a link back to the site itself, which is super important. And they're using hashtags pretty creatively. It's an industrial property. We know it's commercial real estate. We know it's in the state of Oregon, and we know the name of the city. So that is another useful place to put that. Another piece of slick creative here. This one is from the Fayette County in Georgia. They're also using Zoom Business. And one of the things that I like here, there's a couple things I really like here. One is that the link is right there, so you can see exactly how to get there. Super important. Again, I'm going to say that over and over again. I love that they're using the shop local hashtag that is familiar to people. People use it to search, and it gets people's attention. And I love that they've partnered with their local newspaper, The Citizen, to get the word out about this map directory of local businesses. We know newspapers are really hurting. They are worried about their advertising revenue because they know that local businesses are having a hard time right now. And so partnering with local media is absolutely brilliant for economic development. They need your local businesses to be healthy as much as everyone, and they're willing to kind of help you get out the news about initiatives that you might have in mind. So do not be shy to reach out to them. Another example here, this one is from Georgia. They are showcasing their sites and buildings tool in this case. So they've got a nice visual. They went in and drew a circle about what they are trying to direct people's attention to. So you can go in and annotate your image. The map layers, they're showing that they have these new COVID-19 data is built into their mapping tool. The link is clearly indicated at the bottom. That's really important as well. So we're happy to see this. And this is also something that they've posted on Facebook. So I really like this next one. It's an example of from YouTube of Edmonton Global for their channel. partly because really what Google loves most of all is Google, and YouTube is a Google product. So that means having a YouTube channel ensures that you will always turn up at the very top of Google search results. It's just really good planning. If you're going to choose a social media channel, this gives you the SEO power that a lot of the others, don't always deliver on. You're going to turn up near the top on search rankings, but we know that Google is going to consistently do well, and all of videos get their own listing. So in this case, you can see that they've got a number of different videos. Don't worry too much about video production integrity. The truth is that a decent iPhone or Android these days is a pretty powerful video camera. Two things I would encourage you to do is get a tripod, because there's nothing worse than unsteady video, and invest in a good quality microphone. You might need two iPhones or two smartphones to shoot, and you can sync the audio that way. It just really makes a difference. And you can do everything from recording interviews, as you see there, examples of getting local business leaders, workers, businesses, profiles of property developments or project developments that are happening in the area, interviews with elected officials. There's so much creative stuff that you can do with video. And I love that it can especially focus on people, because I think people really are really interesting to people. We all want to hear about the others in our community, and it's really nice to flatter people by profiling them, and it also generates very legitimate interest from others. So here's another example of one of the videos. Now this is really important because Google does not index the content of videos. You must always put a clearly written text description with every video if you want to take maximum advantage here. A lot of people overlook this. Think about organic search terms, the way people might actually look for things. So this will always turn up in their search results. And the one thing that I really would encourage you to do, you don't see it here, but I really would encourage you to always put links back to your website on the video description as well. That way someone who's interested now has somewhere to go. So this particular video talks about H-1B visas from the US. If you have a page on your website for workforce or visas or visa assistance or workforce attraction, you might want to link back to that. That's just an example of something you might actually choose to do. Now, bear with me here, because you're probably thinking to yourself, Wikipedia is not social media. However, I'm adding this in here because Wikipedia is always going to turn up near the top of anybody's search rankings. Usually it's one of the #1 listing. And most economic developers have not put the time and thought into editing the economic development or economy section for their region, their town, their province, whatever it is. It's very easy to do. Anyone can edit a wiki entry. That is the nature of a wiki. You create an account, it's free, then an edit button comes up, and you can go in and write a section on economic development. A couple things I would say about that. One, don't be blatantly self-promotional. Those are the kinds of Wikipedia entries that tend to get edited. I don't think economic development is likely to be a hot button issue, so the chances of people editing it for you is very unlikely. But just keep an eye on it. The second thing, make sure you use those keywords. Bullet points are great. Target industries, anchor companies, anything related to your value proposition. Put it in there in bullet points. And last, make sure you include links back to your website. Any website tools you've got, but the home page as well. If you have different pages on workforce or target industries, put the different links in whenever you mention those kinds of things. Take advantage of Wikipedia. It's free and it's there for you. It's just an easy thing to tick off. Another example here, this is Spruce Grove doing a really nice job on Facebook. Again, what they're doing is promoting their GIS tool that they've got with us. They've got a beautiful image. They've also got the link up there, which I'm so happy to see. I love that they're using hashtags Spruce Grove or Invest Spruce Grove. They're using Econ Dev, which we know is a really big one, as well as economic development. So really nice job on that one. Now, Instagram is a question that I get asked about a lot. Instagram is very image-based, clearly. So if you have great images, if you have beautiful video, feel free to put it in Instagram, absolutely. It is certainly not the top one that site selectors and potential investors are going to be looking at, but for workforce, it can be pretty powerful, and a lot of your businesses in your area are going to be on Instagram. So if you have some beautiful images that you can put to work, and that can include screenshots or maps from your data tools, charts, graphs, that's certainly fair game as well. Then feel free to use that on Instagram. Now, Instagram is a Facebook product, so you can actually double post to both at the same time if you have an appropriate kind of post. And of course, you can use something like Hootsuite or other social decks. HubSpot is one that I really like. So you can schedule all of your social posts at the beginning of the month, make it as easy as possible, and it lets you monitor things like mentions or reposts or reshares or engagement so that you can keep a close eye on that. And so that's an important thing to keep in mind. Just another example here, this one's from LinkedIn. The Charlotte Regional Business Alliance is just communicating information that's on their website. And again, the link is right there, it's very visual, it's got information, and it goes out to all of their followers. Now, the second thing that I really wanted to focus on here is using your time wisely and thinking about your objectives as much as possible. If you don't have a dedicated communications team, that is not a huge issue. You know, like many of our clients, sometimes you're one-person organizations, or maybe you're a few people, but you're all wearing a lot of different hats. You want to set this up. It takes a little bit of time to establish the profiles or the pages if you don't have them yet. So just invest that couple hours, get the images done, think about your bio description, make sure you put the link back to your website in the description, and then go out there and think about building a post schedule. If you already have, for example, a LinkedIn platform for your organization, and you decide you're going to start a Twitter page, that's fine too, Twitter account, then you can use your LinkedIn page to promote your new Twitter account if that's something you want to do. So think about creative ways to mix them up. It takes a little bit of time to build an organic following. Don't be shy to go out and invite people to like your page. If you personally, as the director of your organization, have a LinkedIn account, but your organization does not yet, you can invite all of your connections on LinkedIn to follow or like your organizational page as well. That way they'll get news about it. And then engage with people, comment, like, share, retweet. That's engagement. This is not traditional legacy media where it's one person talking to lots of people. This is about one-to-one engagement and communication. So just posting things and using it like legacy media is far less efficient than using it as it's intended, which is to engage with different people. But that means you have to spend a little bit of time doing that. And if someone posts a question on a post of yours or says something, then it's good etiquette to acknowledge them. And if you use a deck like Hootsuite or HubSpot, it will send you automatic alerts anytime someone mentions the name of your organization or mentions your name, so you are sure not to miss those opportunities wherever possible. Now, a couple of things we want to think about. The different kinds of social do different kinds of things. So, different kinds of social do different things. So LinkedIn is fantastic for dealing with potential investors, for working with your companies who are already out there, businesses in the area. It's a great place to seek information. It's a great place to post information. It's a fantastic place for engagement, specifically related to businesses and investment. People are not posting pictures of their lunch on LinkedIn, so it generally tends to have a somewhat more sober conversation, and people go there because they know that people aren't going to get very political. They're going to really be focused on business and things related to economic development. A LinkedIn moderated group is also an excellent way to go because this gives you a virtual community that you can build, and as the moderator, you get to also see what's being said, invite people in there, and make sure that you're creating this vibrant and open virtual community. This is so important during a pandemic. And that means that it's a place where people can crowdsource ideas, share information, create new synergies, engage with each other. It really gives you an opportunity to build and nurture stakeholder communities. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn moderated groups. They don't cost any money to start, and it's a great place to start inviting people and kicking the conversation off and making sure you keep an eye on who people are going to ask to be added in. So if you're going to be moderating it, you do have to take your responsibilities quite seriously and keep an eye on those ad requests. Now, Twitter is a fun place for actionable intelligence. I like to create lists of either competitors or different organizations or innovators. I want to see what people are doing out there. I like to see what's happening in commercial real estate. It's an interesting place for engagement as well. I have found over the years that it is a less interesting place for lead generation. It's just not a place for prospecting. I don't see people being as successful with that. But for information, for sharing, especially if you've got blog posts or new announcements, absolutely a good place to put those things out there. Now, a Facebook organizational page is really valuable, especially for engaging your local businesses. They are all going to be on there, whether they're a local bakery or catering company or a hardware store or a retailer or a company that's doing manufacturing. Chances are they've probably got a Facebook organizational page. So it is a good place to spend some time. Again, you're going to have less likely to have site selectors and investors there, but that's fine. You have to think about what your objectives are, just understand them and then generate posts accordingly. YouTube, as I said, is great for SEO, great for information, and a really nice way to kind of communicate your value proposition. Every individual video that you post is treated by Google as a separate page, so really good for creating a variety of indexed content. Now the other ones, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, I've seen placeholder accounts there. I've seen people doing some interesting stuff on Instagram, especially tourism, conference boards, workforce attraction. Snapchat, I have yet to see a very compelling example of a Snapchat story used for economic development. If you've got one, let me know. I'm interested to see it. I have seen some Pinterest boards related to economic development. And they are places, if you do have the time and the interest and you have specific objectives, then go right ahead. I'm happy to see what you've got. But if you really are limited in terms of time, I always tell my clients that if you have to just pick one, fish where the fish are. And the fish are on LinkedIn, as it turns out, when it comes to economic development. We know that that's where site selectors are, where the investors are, where your existing businesses are. And it's a place where you can have serious discussions about economic development and be a little bit less concerned about those loose cannons and the kind of noise that happens on social media. Now, the other thing that you can do if you're concerned, especially as a government organization, or you're just worried about what this means to put yourself out there, you might be worried about comments, loose cannons, you can always take advantage of settings, but on all of these different tools, not on Twitter actually, although you can certainly block people, but you can go into Facebook and LinkedIn and it allows you to do moderation of posts. You can delete things that are published if they're inappropriate, but you can also set it up so that you review the posts before they're actually published to the page. Now, why are you online? Building engagement is so critical, and so you need to ask yourself, what are your primary objectives in getting out there? So we talked a little bit about this before. Are you doing this to establish, some SEO presence and make sure you show up in the rankings? Are you trying to get information about what's happening in your community? Are you trying to engage your local businesses or prospective investors? You don't need to have all of those things, but almost certainly, whatever your primary objective is in that larger category, you're going to want to drive people back to your website. So it's so critical not to forget to include those links wherever possible. You don't need to have every social media tool out there. You just need to make sure that whatever you do choose are strategically important for you and that you're populating them with quality content. Then you want to structure social media campaigns around them and think about what it is that you need to say in order to achieve those objectives. And of course, focus on using links in all of those posts is really important. One of the things that we did in our Zoom Prospector tools, we're very careful to build in customized share links. So you can go into any property report, you can put on map layers or put together a heat map of consumer expenditures or labor force, and then you click on share and it generates a customized link that you can then use in all of your social sharing to make sure that people who click on it come right back to the exact report that you have created with the layers, with whatever it is that you wanted to reflect on there. So look for that kind of sharing as you use the different tools at your disposal. Now, although email newsletters are not strictly speaking social media, it's absolutely critical to amplify your social channels with it. We've seen lots of creative examples over the years of people using their newsletters with links that take them back to the tool. So as an example from the US here, browse our GIS-based maps. There's a site and building search button at the top. Too often, email newsletters are designed to look attractive or to have some information, but they don't give people anything to do. Those links are so critical to be effective. Another one from the city of Abbotsford in British Columbia, where they've renewed or put in an updated version of the site selectors tool that they were using with us, and they made sure that they had a button in the newsletter that could bring people right back to it if they wanted to. So the next thing that I think is useful to talk about is content. You've chosen which ones you're going to work with, and then you've set them up. Now, how do we figure out what to say, and how do we make sure that we're saying it in a compelling way? So there's lots of things to talk about. Disaster response certainly is one that everyone's got top of mind these days. News, top 10 lists or listicles of any kind. Data and information about workforce, jobs, populations, heat maps that showcase how data disperses across your geography. People love to see maps. Anything that helps them visualize data in different ways. We talked about entrepreneur profiles being useful, graphs, businesses of the day, properties of the day, charts, properties of the week. All of that information is really creative ways to reach out to people. You want to make sure whatever you're posting that you ensure accuracy, that you do your research carefully, that you use themes, and that you just figure out ways to kind of reach out in ways that are compelling, that achieve your objective, primarily to get people back to your website for whatever the kind of top objective is that you've got. And to do this, I usually suggest, once the accounts are set up, that you devote 15 minutes to social media in the morning, maybe another 15 minutes when you come back from lunch at the end of the day if there's been any engagement. You set up a calendar at the beginning of the month that allows you to schedule the posts for the next month. So that way you can make sure that you've got 2, 3, 4 posts going out every week. Ideally on LinkedIn, you want to have at least one a day in order to take advantage of the algorithm, but even just getting out 2 or 3 a week would help to touch that. I think that's still a worthwhile goal and helpful to do. And then think creatively about what that information comes from. If you have interactive tools, as an example, we put in open businesses as a layer for different clients where you can show the business status directly in the tool themselves. Lots of creative visualizations. In this case, this is in the US, an index on job vulnerability. We have different examples of things like this in Canada as well. They just make for very colorful, compelling maps. It is possible to use our tools to map out down to the 6-digit NAICS code all the businesses, all the industries. In this case, an example of mapping out all the healthcare and social services in a particular region. Every one of those dots, if you click on them as a business, you can drill down further. We could go in and look at all the dentist clinics. It would have each one of them by name, and they would be mapped out on the geography. So if you're working in a specific target sector and you want to show all the biopharmaceutical related businesses in your area, it then becomes to do that, and that cluster now comes alive when you're talking about it on your webpage, when you're writing about it in your newsletter, when you're preparing a business case for someone, when you're doing outreach prior to a trade mission or for a trade show. You use that data in different ways. Another example here, this is from Edmonton Global, where we're using heat maps to look at food purchased from restaurants. You can click on any of the blocks. So consumer spending is always a fun one for social media. And of course, you could just generate the report and then click on share and click on the unique link, and that will take people directly to there. So it's one thing to show it to them because you can also easily capture this as an image, but then another thing to bring them back as well. Another example, of course, are the data infographics. We produce these for all the different communities that are clients of ours, and any one of those blocks can be downloaded by clicking on the 3 little dots on the top, or you can click on the share icon at the top and go directly to use these data profile infographics. They make beautiful shares on social media. They look great in newsletters as well. Another example here, this is the Zoom business tool that I was talking about before. So this lets you map all of the businesses in your community that are open. You can filter by the different kinds of businesses if you just want to look for pharmacies or animal care clinics or health care clinics. You can add pictures if you want to, but this way consumers can go in there and find the information they need, and the businesses add themselves, so that makes things a little bit easier. That's another great way to share these things on social media. Now, the last thing that I would say, number 5 of the top 5 that I wanted to share, is to think about using hashtags strategically. Now, hashtags, if you're confused by them, hashtags are basically a way to search. So people use, let's say, econdev is a common hashtag, and you can do a search in Google or in Twitter or anywhere for that hashtag, econdev, put it out there and see what turns up. In this case, I've done an analysis using a site called hashtagify.me, and it shows us what econdev is associated with. So most of the posts related to econdev have to do with jobs, innovation, or manufacturing. We also see a lot of them related to FDI, to cities, economic development, site selection. So not too surprisingly. What I like to see, what I've seen some businesses do, some economic development organizations do very creatively, is to also create their own hashtags. So you're going to want to use hashtags for 2 reasons. This is a consumer site for Nike, but what they've done is they've created these hashtags called Project North or Choose Your Winter, and that allows them to track a hashtag that they've created for a particular campaign. If they do a search of that term, they're going to turn up everything that has to do with their hashtag. It's a nice way to storify a campaign, in other words. Another great example is Abbotsford uses hashtag BizFriendlyAbbey in all of their posts where they're talking about businesses. And that's something no one else is going to be able to use. So in addition to being able to use tags like site selection or biotech or pharma or grow ops, whatever are, interesting hashtags are out there, creating one just for your community allows you to do that kind of tracking as well. Now, I've given you a bonus 6th one here, which is to set up a Google alert for your organization. And this is basically a way to, I'm going to go back here. It's a way for you to essentially track what is happening on the internet related to your organization. It's very easy to do. You go to google.com or google.ca/alerts and you put in the name of your organization or your own name. You can set up as many alerts as you want. They're free. You need a Google account, of course. I suggest if you've got teenagers, set them up for your teenagers. And what it's going to do is it's going to track the entire internet all the time for uses of that term. And then it will email that term, send you an email with links back to those articles or those sites where that term appears. So that's absolutely useful, a great way to track a brand, the way a brand is being used. It lets you track what is happening for other brands. You can create them for competing regions, for companies that are interesting to you, companies within your territory if you want to make sure you know what's going on with them, companies that you're trying to recruit to your area, all sorts of really creative ways to do that. This is a way for you to curate your digital footprint, to figure out what is being said using that particular term. So I like to have one for the organization at minimum, and every person out there on the internet, which is really just about every person who is typing and reading, you're going to want to set up an alert with that person's name. Now, it's easy to do if your name is Elisa Sklar, which is my name, of course, but it's not so easy to do if your name is John Smith. Admittedly, if you have a very common name, less likely to be useful. If you use a nickname, I encourage you to use that. That's another great way to do that. So Google Alerts, useful for anyone and everyone. So just to recap, knowing your tools, which social media tools you want to use. You don't have to use them all. I highly recommend LinkedIn if you have to use just one, because we want to fish where the fish are. That's where we know investors and businesses are spending their time and they're serious. You want to use your time wisely and in a focused way. So once these accounts are set up, you set up a calendar at the beginning of the month and limit yourself to 15, 20 minutes in the morning or after lunch just to check on comments or any engagement. You want to make sure that you haven't missed out on them, and then you turn it off and you go back to the rest of your work. Now, building engagement, again, just to recap, is very important. This is not legacy media like television or radio where one person speaks to many silent people out there in TV land or radio land. The nature of social media, of course, is that it is social and is a place to engage. So comments and likes and responses are very, very important. And you want to make sure that you're building engagement, not just by encouraging people to comment and come to your own posts, but by going out and doing that in other places as well, saying things that are friendly or helpful or informative and posting in those places too. And that's how you organically build engagement and followers over time. Sourcing strong content is easy if you've got some quality data tools. If you have access to any data within your organization, taking advantage of those things wherever possible is really quite useful. And then using hashtags strategically. So know the ones that are related to the target industry sectors in your area. You could do a little bit of research and you'll figure out what those are. It's not hard to do that work. And then consider using a hashtag for your region or for your organization. And then finally, using Google Alerts to track those mentions so you know what's actually happening. So my name is Elisa Sklar. I'm the VP of Marketing at GIS Planning. We are a part of the Financial Times, the FT Specialist Group, and we are very happy to answer any questions that you might have related to this presentation for social media. I'm going to be live doing a Q&A, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say. And of course, I encourage you all to tweet us at GIS Planning with any favorite social media tips or examples that you've got. I'd love to see them. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alyssa, for your presentation. That was fantastic. I certainly learned a lot, and it's always tough to keep track of all of the new trends and keep up on the latest applications. So we definitely appreciate your insights into how we as economic developers can benefit from social media. I'd like to thank Clint again, as well as AUMA, a key partner of ours, as we stay connected to our urban municipalities. And now I'd invite you to stay and join us for the live Q&A session. All you have to do is click the link that'll appear here on the screen, and you'll be taken right to that session. I'll be there and look forward to the discussion and having Alyssa answer your questions. Thanks so much for your participation today. We'll see you momentarily.